So, you want to build a business in India? Forget the textbooks for a second. What we're doing today is a kind of Bijli MBA or a lightning MBA. We're distilling the raw, practical, street-smart wisdom of veteran business coach Rajiv Gupta. This is for anyone, whether you're sketching an idea on a napkin or you're about to inherit a family legacy.
Here's the game plan. First, we're going to start with the most important person in the business, you, your mindset. Then we'll get into the lifeblood of any company, money. After that, we'll uncover a surprising, maybe even counterintuitive secret about where the real profits are in India. And finally, we'll tackle the big one, the unique drama and challenge of running a family business.
Right. Before you write a single line of a business plan, before you even think about funding, you have to stop. You have to answer 3 absolutely fundamental questions about your own journey. Everything, and I mean everything, is built on this foundation.
According to Rajiv Gupta, your direction, what he calls your disha, literally sets your destiny. And look, these are not just some fluffy philosophical questions. You need to have them documented, crystal clear, because your why is what's going to drag you out of bed on the bad days, and your how is your map. If you don't have this, you're not building a business, you're just drifting.
Okay, so here's a weird twist. The very thing you're chasing, success itself, can actually become your biggest enemy. It's a classic trap, and it's brought down giants. How does that even happen?
Well, it all comes down to one word: ego. When an entrepreneur gets successful, they can start to believe their own hype. They think they can't fail. And that's when they stop making smart, calculated risks based on data and start making huge, hazardous bets based on gut feelings. And as Gupta says, that's when everything they've spent years building can just collapse.
So that naturally leads us to probably the most crucial skill you'll ever need: managing money. And here's the key thing to get your head around. Especially at the beginning, you can't really separate your personal finances from your business finances. They're totally linked.
The smartest business families, they build what Gupta calls iron walls. You absolutely have to separate the money for your family's lifestyle, your home, your kids' school, from the capital you're risking in the business. Why? It's simple. Business always involves risk. Always. No matter how smart you are, things can go sideways. You can't let a bad business decision wipe out your family's security.
Now, when it comes to growing that personal wealth, Gupta has a super clear playbook. If you're starting small, say with 1 lakh, don't overthink it. One good mutual fund, that's it. As you grow to 10 lakh, you start to diversify a little, add a second asset, maybe something like gold. But once you hit 1 crore, the game totally changes. Now it's all about serious diversification across different things to protect yourself from risk.
And for the business money, he has this brilliant rule, the 1,000-day rule. It's an incredible discipline tool. You get 1 injection of seed money, and for the next 1,000 days, that's roughly 3 years, 2 things are non-negotiable. 1, you cannot ask for more money. And 2, you cannot take any money out for yourself. Your one and only job is to get that business to be cash positive. If you can't do it in 1,000 days, it's a sign the idea isn't working. Shut it down and move on.
All right, let's switch gears and talk strategy. If I say high-growth business, you're probably picturing some cool tech startup, right? Some glamorous app. But in India, the real long-term wealth is often built in places you'd least expect.
Yep. While the next generation is chasing the buzz of tech or media, the actual backbone of generational wealth in this country has been manufacturing. We're talking factories, machines, supply chains, making physical things. It might not sound sexy, but trust me, this is where fortunes are often made and sustained. So how do you even get into that? Well, Gupta lays out this classic, time-tested path. You don't start by building a massive factory. No way. You start small as a trader or a contractor. This lets you get in the game with low risk and learn the entire supply chain from the inside out. Once you truly understand how everything works, you'll start to see the gaps, the problems. And that's your opening. You step in and start manufacturing the one piece that solves that problem. That's how a trader becomes an industrialist.
Now that path is timeless, but the opportunities are always changing. Today, taking that same trader to industrialist model and applying it to these sectors, that's where the massive potential is. Imagine starting out just distributing solar panels, learning the industry inside and out, and then moving into manufacturing a critical component. Same principle, totally modern playground.
And that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle, and it's often the most emotional, the most complicated part of business in India, the family business.
This is where personal history, legacy, ego, it all comes crashing together.
Just look at that number, 50%. Let that sink in for a second. That figure points to a huge, silent crisis that's brewing inside family companies all across the country.
So what's going on here? Why are half of the kids saying no thanks? Well, the reason is painfully simple. They feel completely suffocated. They're not given any real power, they're not allowed to make mistakes, and they've got a senior family member constantly looking over their shoulder, second-guessing every move.
And that suffocation, it usually comes from what Rajiv Gupta calls the Lala problem. It's that senior family head, the founder, who after decades of being right and building something incredible, starts to develop a bit of a God complex.
And this phrase just sums it all up perfectly. My word is the only law. It's this deep-seated belief that they are immortal, they are all-knowing, and their way is the only way. And that kind of attitude, it just leaves zero oxygen in the room for the next generation to breathe, let alone grow.
But, it doesn't have to be this way. The Ambanis are a fascinating counterexample. You had Dhirubhai, who made that classic journey from trader to industrialist. Then Mukesh didn't just maintain it, he took a huge risk and completely transformed the business with Jio. And now you see the third generation isn't being forced into one mold. They're diversifying based on their own strengths. Each generation is building something new, not just polishing a trophy.
So when you strip it all away, it comes down to one fundamental soul-searching question. Is the business there to serve the family, or is the family there to serve the business? If the goal is the family's well-being, then maybe selling the company or hiring a professional CEO is the best move. But if the goal is the business's legacy, then you have to put the best person in charge, even if that person isn't your own child. And that really leaves us with this final thought, a question facing an entire generation. What's the real win here? Is it preserving a legacy that you didn't choose just for the sake of tradition? Or is it having the courage to walk away from all of that, to build something that is truly your own? There's really no right or wrong answer, is there?